trying to figure out how to do. Sure. Let's see how this goes.
Warning, these videos are designed for HVAC professionals only. Please do not attempt this on your own stuff.
Welcome to TEC2. I'm Dave Herman with Tech Support, and today we're going to be going over setting the gas pressure in a modulating furnace. When setting the gas pressure on this, you're not going to be setting first stage and second stage. You're going to be setting a maximum and minimum. So we're going to be looking at the staging a whole different way. We're going to be looking at it as modulating. So totally different than we're used to. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the valve itself set up to be able to read gas pressure with our manometer. This is the newer style valve. So we're going to take our 3/32 Allen wrench. We're going to go to our outlet tap on top of the valve. We don't need to take that screw out, just one full turn. We're going to slide our adapter tube over it. And then we're going to attach our manometer directly to that.
Is the audio working for y'all? I'm guessing yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's working. Okay, I'm just making sure. What he's using right here, I just wanted to point out real quick, is this manometer. This is what we use for testing gas pressure to get those inches of water column and everything. So you'll see these used a lot of times when you're working on gas furnaces. Pretty much the only spot you'll see them used. But yeah, I'll continue going with it.
Okay, so we're ready to go as far as our manometer goes, and our gas valve as far as checking the actual pressure itself. Next thing we got to do, we got to get into the furnace itself, our control board, and we want to set our pressures, setting our maximum pressure first, and then setting our minimum pressure. They have to be set in that order. Set our maximum first, minimum second. The area between minimum and maximum, it'll find its own range during operations as long as that maximum is set correctly and the minimum is set correctly. The pressures on that are going to be a little bit different than we're also used to as far as setting, say, a two-stage valve. Generally, our maximum pressure is going to be set at 3.5. The actual range on that is 3.2 to 3.8, which is similar to what we're used to on a standard single-stage furnace or on a high stage. So that the actual pressure itself is going to be about the same. The minimum is where we're very different than anything we're used to. The normal setting on that is going to be 0.5, and our actual range on that is going to be 0.5 to 0.65 gas pressure. So very different than what we're used to, extremely low compared to what we're used to on lower stages at 1.5. So our minimum is going to be set at 0.5. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to get into the furnace. We're going to take off our bottom door. And what we're going to do is we're going to bypass our infinity control. In the lab here, we have this set up. We have our infinity control right at the furnace, just for convenience in our setup here. When you're in a residence or a building, that's not going to generally be right by the furnace like this. But either way, we're going to eliminate that from the equation altogether. We're going to remove our 4-wire tab plug from the board. So we're going to eliminate the control from the circuit. Now we're going to go down into the control part of the furnace. We've removed our plug for our user interface, and we're going to look at our thermostat terminal strip. And what we're going to do is we're going to get our unit jumped out to our maximum fire. So we're going to jump out our maximum by going to our R, our W1. And then from W1, we're going to go to our W2, which will ensure that we go to our maximum fired rate. I'm going to make sure our manometer is turned on. Make sure it's zeroed out. And we'll give the furnace a minute to get fired up and make sure we are firing at full gas pressure and see where our pressure is set at right now. Our furnace is up and running now. We're in maximum fire. The furnace is going to initially start in a mid-range, and then it's going to go to the range it needs to as far as its set point. So the user interface is generally going to decide that depending on how it's hooked up and set up and the algorithm within the system. Right now we have that bypassed by using the jumpers at the board just to make sure it is in our maximum fire. So we're in maximum fire on this unit. Right now our gas pressure is showing 3.4, 3.42 to be exact, which is essentially 3.4. So as far as adjusting that gas pressure, this is where we're going to be totally different than we're used to on our other valves. We have set screws that we turn and adjust on the standard valve, which reacts immediately. This is an electronically controlled valve, so you don't have that immediate reaction. We have one set point for all our different ranges of operation. You don't have 2 set points or 3 set points, whatever it may be. We have 2 simple set points on a 2-stage furnace. On a modulating, we have 1. Single stage, we have 1. So a little bit different there as far as valves. So a single stage furnace, we have 1 set point with a set screw. 2-stage, we have 2 set points, 2 set screws. Modulating, there's 1 screw, 1 set point. We don't have different multiple because we have electronically controlled valves. So we're going to use 1 point to make all our settings between our maximum and minimum. So what we're going to do, that's located right towards the right side of our valve. There's a white cap over that. So we're going to pop that cap out. Set that off to the side. You're going to need a small screwdriver for that thermostat type screwdriver. You're going to get that in there and you're going to get it on the screw itself. Right on the valve itself, it's going to have your plus minus for your additional pressure or to take away pressure. So once again, we're within range as far as this 3.4 goes. Our range on this unit is 3.2 to 3.8. So we're within range. So we don't need to make an adjustment, but just for the sake of going over it, we're going to adjust it. We're going to increase this pressure on this unit. Now, when adjusting this, you are going to turn that screw, but it's a little bit different again than we're used to on the standard furnace. You're not just going to turn this and just watch that pressure go up and down. There's a clicking that you're going to hear as you turn that screw. 1 click per second. You don't want to turn it too quick because the board needs to follow what's going on. So 1 click per second. It's always best to do a number of clicks, say 5, 6 clicks, and then kind of wait and see where your manometer is adjusting and going to. You may have to do more, may have to do less. It may not react to what you're doing right away. So you kind of play it by ear with each valve, and see how it reacts to how you're setting. So we'll get in here on our set screw. We're going to get in, and remember, you're going to feel the click, and you're also going to hear it if you're close enough to the furnace. So 1 click per second. 3, 4, 5. So I just did 5 clicks, 1 per second. We were at about 3.4 on our gas pressure. This valve's immediately registering it. It's not taking any time to do it. And right now we're at 3.5, 3.57 to be exact. So this valve, as I turned each click, it was immediately changing pressure. Sometimes you might change it, hit 4 or 5 clicks, 2 or 3. You may do even more than that, and it doesn't react immediately. So you just got to kind of be patient with these valves and just see how many clicks it takes to get them to adjust. You know, most of the time they're going to react relatively quickly. So with just 5 clicks, we jumped up in gas pressure from 3.4 to 3.5, 3.57, you know, so a fair amount relatively quickly. So now we're going to back it down a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was 5 clicks. And that's bringing the pressure down right back to 3.4, 3.47. So right about the same range we were at. So the 5 clicks is taking us, you know, right about the same range either way. So that's your adjustment for that. So remember, you don't want to do that fast, 1 click per second. If you do it faster than that, the board may not keep up with you. You can actually damage the board in there. So you want to make sure you do it 1 click per second. So that's going to be 1 click per second on our maximum fire. And it's going to be the same when we go to do our minimum. So we're going to leave that at this for our maximum. We're good there. So we know that's good. So our next step is going to be to go to our minimum fire. Now that our maximum fire is all set, we're going to go to our setting for our minimum fire. That we're going to have to go back into our control compartment again. So we're going to remove the jumpers we have to get the unit to run in our maximum fire. And then what we're going to do now is we want to make sure this unit stays in minimum fire. We don't want the board to decide to actually, through an algorithm, to go into any other range of fire, because we want to make sure our setting is correct. It's critical that the setting is correct on here because it's dependent, as far as our gas pressure goes, the system operation is dependent on the gas pressure being in line, so the blower is operating at the right speed along with our gas pressure, so we avoid having any kind of limit issues. So the next thing we're going to have to do is go to get to our minimum fire. We're going to have to make some adjustments on our setup switches. So our setup switches on SW1 number 2, we're going to want that switch on. And then on SW4 number 2, we're going to want that off.
What he's talking about here is specifically the dip switches, these sets right here. Depending on the manufacturer, this is specific to Carrier or Bryant. They're the same thing. You're going to be changing what kind of switches according to what job you're doing. So that just depends on what brand it is and everything.
So I'm going to make my adjustments.
The other thing is this little control right here at the top here. This is one of the most annoying things in the world. It's a microchip board that will feed data to a system. And a lot of times a system will be installed without it, or they'll burn out on it. So getting new ones of these is really annoying, and making sure it's installed on a new system is essential. I've been on a lot of calls where literally this part was just missing from the install, and that's all it was.
And then I'm going to take my jumper and I'm going to go from R to W1, and that will keep us in our minimum fire position. Our manometer is still hooked up. We'll make sure that's at 0. And we'll wait for our unit to start up. And then we'll check our pressure from there. When the unit initially starts up, it's not going to start in that minimum range. It's going to start in a mid-range. Make sure we have good operation, we have flame sense, and then it'll ramp all the way down, usually within about a minute or so, and it'll ramp down into the minimum range of operation. And once again, once we get there, our gas pressure on that is going to be 0.5, and our range is very small on that. It's 0.5 to 0.65. Again, we're going to be adjusting through that one adjustment screw, and that doesn't change. 1 click per second when we make that adjustment on that. So right now, it's through our manometer looking at it. It's, like I said, fired up somewhere around mid-range. Right now, we're showing about 1.5, 1.54. But you're generally going to hear the difference once that scales back that pressure, going to minimum fire. You're going to hear the difference in the burners. And like I said, usually that's within about a minute or so. We'll give it a second to make sure it doesn't change anymore. Generally, when you're right by the furnace, you're able to hear the difference as that pressure is dropping, as the inducer is slowing down. So checking the manometer at this point, we're at 0.58, which puts us right in range where we need to be on this. Once again, it's 0.5 to 0.65, which is very low compared to what we're normally used to dealing with furnaces. So we're right within range where we should be. So 0.59, approaching 0.6 with a maximum of 0.65. So just for the sake of demonstration purposes, we'll take a look at this. We'll get on our set screw, and we'll get this adjusted back and turned down slightly. So on the screw, one click per second. Three, 4, 5. So those 5 clicks actually took us a little bit lower than where we want to be. So right now we're at 0.43, 0.42. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to get us back up a little bit higher, right at our 0.5 range. So once we get on that adjustment screw, or clicks to increase, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're at 0.49 right now. One more click. So that puts us at 0.52. And that leaves us in good operating range. So we've set our maximum and we've set our minimum. So now we have a good range. We're at our 3.5 range for our maximum, 0.5 on our minimum, and now the unit itself will run its range as it needs to between those two set points. Once again, we want to make sure that's accurate. So the blower and the gas valve, gas part of the furnace are in unison when they're operating, so we avoid having any kind of limit issues. If that minimum pressure is set too high, you're likely to have limit issues immediately because our blower isn't going to be running at the right speed to keep up with what our gas pressure is. So it's important that we get that gas pressure set correctly on these units. So once again, we set our maximum pressure first, our minimum pressure second. We want to make sure our maximum is at 3.5, our minimum is at 0.5, and from there we should be set and good for operation. So now our gas pressure is all set correctly. You know, we're good to go, we're good for operation. So we could get in, we could remove move our jumper. Now we're going to go back in and we're going to put our setup switches back to what they originally were. Our SW1 number 2 is going to go to off, and our SW4 number 2 is going to go to on. Okay, so our adjustments are made. I'm going to turn off the power to the unit. I'm going to take our 4-pin connector for our user interface, our communicating plug. I'm going to plug that back into the board. So now our user interface will be put back into circuit. I'm going to power back up. That's going to take a while to get back online. I'm going to pull our manometer. I'm going to close up our checking port. I'm going to make sure that the set screw in there is snug with our Allen key. And we'll be all set. The unit is back up and ready for operation. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Dave Herman with TDC2. Hopefully this cleared up any questions you might have about setting up the gas pressure on the modulating furnaces.
All right, and the next one I've got is going to be going over 2-stage furnaces. Much simpler, much easier. It's 2 stages, not always modulation.
Hey guys, Jay here with Word of Advice TV, and today I just want to briefly explain what a 2-stage furnace is. And I happen to have a 2-stage furnace in my house, so this will work out perfect. So what is a 2-stage furnace, and how is it any different from just a normal furnace? A 2-stage furnace, the whole purpose behind it is to save you on fuel costs and energy costs. What it does is on milder days when it's not as cold outside, the furnace only runs at 60 or 65% of its full capacity, meaning instead of 100% full blast, it's only using 60% of the gas and electricity that it normally would use to heat your home. They call that low stage and high stage. So the low stage turns on for about 15 minutes on average. So the furnace will first turn on in low stage for the first 15 minutes. And let's say you set your thermostat up to 72 and it's 70 in the house. If it cannot reach 72 in 15 minutes, then the furnace will ramp up to 100% into high stage to get the job done faster. So of course, if it's really cold outside, then chances are your furnace will be going into high stage a lot more often. But for days that it's not as cold, it does save you quite a bit of money by not using its full capacity all the time. So that's how it works. As for what's different with the components, the difference between the components on a regular furnace and a 2-stage furnace, the inducer motor, for example, is a 2-stage inducer motor. So most usual inducers will have just 2 wires coming to it. You know, the line voltage will be black, the neutral white. As you can see, mine has a red. So that's the low stage. The black would be the high stage, and of course white is common. So the inducer is different on a 2-stage motor. The gas valve is different. It has 2 stages in it as well. That's why there's 2 wires here as well. I don't have an intermittent pilot, so there's no pilot. One's a common, one's a low stage, and the other is the high stage. The gas valve will be different. And as you can see, my furnace also has 2 pressure switches. The pressure readings on them are different as well. This one's 0.17 inches of water column, and this one's 0.5 inches of water column. So this pressure switch is for low stage, and then this pressure switch is for high stage. And the control board will be a little different as well. It has to be for 2-stage heating, of course. Usually it'll have something like, heat low and heat high, or stage 1 and stage 2, like you see on mine right here. But the blower motor itself stays the same between 1-stage furnaces and 2-stage furnaces. Well, and that's about all there is to know about a 2-stage furnace. But just so you know, the newer furnaces, they're coming out with like 3-stage furnaces as well. You'll see 3 pressure switches. The inducer motor will be bigger, and of course it'll be for 3 stages. The gas valve will most likely be variable speed. And if you're getting into variable speed, some of the more expensive, newer furnaces will be variable speed everything. So the inducer motor will be variable speed. That usually will have a plug with a bunch of wires going to it. The gas valve is variable. Of course, that has a very expensive control board, and the blower motor is typically going to be variable speed as well, which means it has a ton of speed, not just 3 or 4, more like 60 to 90. And those furnaces are smart So it detects, like, if you have a dirty filter, it'll ramp up to a little higher speed. Same with the inducer motor, you know, it'll just gradually increase the heat instead of just having 2 stages like mine. But I just wanted to throw that out there so you do know that that's out there as well. Well, and that's what a 2-stage furnace is and how it works. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have any more questions about the 2-stage furnace and how it works, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to mash that like button on the way out. See you next time.
So 2-stage gas furnaces, like you said, very simple. You've got it where it's pretty much going to be high and low speed, both for your inducer draft motor and your gas valve, as well as your blower motor. Those are all going to be linked up together.
Let's take a look at all the parameters you can set and adjust with the iComfort S30.
This is a fancy integrated control thermostat from Lennox. These ones are very nice. These are the ones I was telling you about before that are almost like iPads, basically. Yeah, you look at the size of that.
Start by hitting the icon in the upper right-hand corner and click the settings gear. Now we can see all of the settings that we can adjust, such as the Wi-Fi. In this example, you can see that we're not connected to the Wi-Fi. We could select the Wi-Fi network, find our router, log in, and connect. We can click on the name option and give our system a specific name. If we select the away option, we can now decide what set points we want the thermostat to default to when we're in the away mode. Currently, the heating is set to 62 and the cooling is set to 84. Adjusting it is as simple as placing your finger on the dot and dragging it to a new set point. We can then set the feels like option, which takes a look at the outdoor temperature, the indoor temperature, and indoor humidity to display what the temperature in the house feels like. This enables the homeowner to not have to set multiple settings to run their humidifier, their dehumidifier, or their heating and air conditioning system. With feels like, we simply enable it and let the homeowner decide what they want the temperature in their home to feel like. We can select the fan button, which allows us to then adjust the amount of time we want the fan to run every single hour to circulate air throughout the home. Beneficial for filtration or bringing fresh air into the home through an HRV or an ERV device. Simply slide the time setting forward or backwards to increase or decrease the time. The heat and cool button allows us to decide what type of options we have for heating and cooling, whether we have normal or comfort settings for heat pump. And this heat pump, if we want to add auxiliary heat, any safety precautions that we might want to know that would allow us to set up a message when the temperatures in the house become too high or too low. Perhaps we're concerned about pipes freezing when it gets extremely cold. So we might want to set the minimum temperature or the alert temperature to let us know when we're in danger of running into a freezing situation. Hitting the humidity button allows us to decide how we control the humidity, whether it's off, whether we add humidity control, we add dehumidification options, or both, and how we're going to control them. Normal humidification or maximum humidification, and normal or maximum dehumidification, or climate IQ, which monitors the current conditions and automatically adjusts the humidity for more comfort. We can adjust dew point, and then we can adjust our humidification set point from here as well. We can select the Harmony Zoning tab, and we can view the names of each of the zones. Clicking on them allows us to see the name. Clicking on it again allows us to edit them. We can view the notifications, which tells us how long it'll take before a notification reminder to replace the filter, the UV light, the humidifier pad, pure air maintenance, or general system maintenance occurs. We can hit advanced settings, restart the system. We can pair the Smart Hub to our iComfort Dealer mobile app for mobile commissioning. We can view the Dealer Control Center for advanced settings. We can click on the General tab to see the general information about the system, such as the dealer info, whether we want the screen locked, the date and time, and the language that it's in. Clicking the display option allows us to decide how we'll record the outdoor temperature. Outdoor weather is on. Do we want it to come in through the internet or through the sensor on the equipment itself? Using the internet option allows us to display a full 5-day forecast, an hourly forecast, as well as current trends and conditions. We can enable the proximity sensor so that when the system goes to standby mode or screensaver mode, as we approach the thermostat, it'll wake up, waiting for us to touch it and move on to the next function. We can select the screensaver we want. It can be off. It can be mirrored to monitor the weather and provide a screensaver. It can be set to mirror the weather from our weather forecast. It can display clouds or rain or a sunny sky to match the weather conditions that we're working with. It can show a logo or a picture. We can adjust the screen brightness and the temperature scale as well, or hit the clean screen option to give us 30 seconds to clean the screen without needing to be concerned about pressing any buttons, turning on or turning off any features. We can also come in and press the home information. And if we were connected to the server, we would display the information about our home, the address, the zip code, the city and state, which will all link together to provide our weather forecast. And we could also click the customer's account information here as well. To return back home, simply hit the icon in the upper left corner and you're back to your normal display.
We've got enough time. Yeah, come on, computer. There we go. All right. So Carrier, this one they've got where they say they've got 3 videos. They really only have 2 posted. Oh shoot, we don't have time, do we? I will go ahead. I'm just going to send these out to y'all, these last 2, and that way you can have an email. I'll also send out the other ones and the recordings from this and the previous lecture and everything. So, yeah. You have any questions?
No.
Okay, cool. I'll go ahead. I'll upload all these videos and send them out to y'all. Just because I didn't realize I only had like 6 minutes left now. All right. Jesse, I can see that picture. I love Hank Hill.